Maurice Bucaille was not just a man of science, he was a man of precision, an esteemed French surgeon whose career was built on facts, research, and the pursuit of knowledge. As the head of the Department of Gastroenterology at Paris's prestigious hospital, Maurice had climbed the pinnacle of success in his field. For Maurice Bucaille, religion was a separate domain, one he treated with polite detachment. Like many of his contemporaries in post-war France, he viewed religious beliefs as cultural artifacts, necessary for some but not essential for him. But Maurice didn't yet know that this unwavering belief in science would lead him to an extraordinary crossroads, a journey that would not only redefine his career, but forever change the foundation of his boyhood skepticism. It began unexpectedly with Egypt and the mummy. In the late 1970s, Maurice was approached by a group of historians and Egyptologists. They sought his expertise for a seemingly straightforward task: to provide a detailed medical report on the remains of Pharaoh Ramesses II, arguably one of Egypt's most powerful rulers. Bucaille accepted the challenge, intrigued by the idea of bridging the disciplines of science and history. But it wasn't just fascination that soon consumed Maurice, it was perplexity. In examining the remains, Maurice unearthed startling details. He noticed signs that the pharaoh's death was swift and violent, possibly caused by drowning. There were salt particles embedded in the mummy's skin, hinting at prolonged submersion in water prior to embalming. This analysis puzzled Maurice, who began searching for historical contexts to explain these findings. To his astonishment, he found that the Quran, the central religious text of Islam, contained verses describing the fate of Pharaoh during Moses' era. According to Surah Yunus, chapter 10, verse 92, God saved Pharaoh's body after his demise, preserving it as a sign for future generations. Maurice was taken aback. How could a 7th century scripture reference an event that was scientifically verified centuries later? More importantly, how could it describe the physical preservation of the pharaoh's body, something Maurice himself had confirmed only weeks earlier? The question haunted Maurice. As a man of logic, he couldn't ignore what he deemed a historical coincidence, but as a scientist, he couldn't dismiss the Quran's specificity. Unlike scriptures Maurice had previously encountered, the Quran seemed to engage with science in ways that felt contemporary. It wasn't just poetic musings or metaphorical discourse, it made statements about the natural world that were subject to investigation. Thus began Maurice Bucaille's exhaustive examination of the Quran, not as a faithful adherent or critic, but as a scientist seeking clarity. Years earlier, Maurice had read portions of the Bible in his academic studies, noting passages reconciled uneasily with scientific principles. To him, religious texts had never been intended to align seamlessly with science, but now Maurice felt compelled to apply the same scrutiny to the Quran. Did its verses hold up under scientific scrutiny? Were they merely mystical allegories, or perhaps relics of antiquated cosmologies? Maurice committed himself fully to this investigation. Fluent in Arabic and armed with the tools of both scientific inquiry and intellectual curiosity, he began comparing the Quranic descriptions of natural phenomena with the latest scientific discoveries in biology, astronomy, and geology. His findings were staggering. He discovered verses speaking of embryonic development, describing with remarkable accuracy the distinct stages an embryo undergoes in the womb. In Surah Al-Mu'minun, chapter 23, verses 12 to 14, the Quran mentions the progression from a drop to a clot, then a lump, eventually bones covered by flesh. Maurice marveled. These developmental stages had only been fully understood after advanced biological research with microscopes, a knowledge completely unknown in the 7th century. Similar patterns emerged in references to the universe's origins. Maurice noted clear parallels between modern cosmology theories and Quranic verses that describe the creation of the heavens and the earth from a single entity, Surah Al-Anbiya chapter 21 verse 30, before its separation. For Maurice, who was fully aware this mirrored the scientific concept of the Big Bang, it was another moment of pause. The more Maurice delved, the more the distinctions between faith and science blurred. Where previous religious texts left Maurice skeptical, these Quranic verses compelled him, not to blindly believe, but to consider the profound implications of their alignment with modern knowledge. This work culminated in Maurice's groundbreaking book, The Bible, the Quran, and Science. The book was as much a reflection of Maurice's awe as it was an analytical undertaking, an exploration of how sacred texts interact with the discoveries of science. Maurice noted that, unlike certain biblical passages inconsistent with empirical observations, the Quran maintained coherence with established scientific facts. It wasn't Maurice's intention to disparage the Bible, nor was it an effort to elevate the Quran unnecessarily. It was simply the truth as Maurice saw it. As the book gained traction, so did Maurice's understanding of Islam, not just through its text, but through its philosophy. He became acquainted with Islamic scholars who explained the concept of Tawheed, or unity, that the wonders of the material world, the precision of science, and the depths of spirituality coexisted under one divine design. Maurice found immense comfort in this worldview. It erased the dichotomy he had always felt between rationality and faith, allowing him to see knowledge and belief as intertwined. In 1982, Maurice Bucaille made a quiet but monumental decision. He embraced Islam. It wasn't a decision born out of emotion or personal hardship. It was a decision rooted in inquiry, evidence, and conviction. For Maurice, the Quran represented the convergence of intellectual rigor and spiritual truth, a synthesis he had spent his life seeking without knowing it. Maurice Bucaille's story was less about conversion and more about discovery, the realization that science and spirituality weren't adversaries, but allies. In his later writings and speeches, he emphasized the importance of remaining humble before the vastness of knowledge, whether it was revealed through nature or scripture. To him, Islam wasn't the negation of his scientific training, it was its complement, providing purpose to the endless pursuit of inquiry. Maurice Bucaille passed away in 1998, but his legacy endures. His work continues to inspire both scientists and seekers, illustrating that faith and reason need not stand at odds. Indeed, in Bucaille's journey, they dance together, moving toward the greater truths of existence. Maurice Bucaille's story reminds us not to fear questions or the unknown. For those brave enough to explore beyond prejudices and assumptions, the answers often lead us to places we never imagined.